these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact. This is an experiment, and it could go horribly wrong. I'm on a mobile internet connection. If the audio goes bad or the internet goes bad, I will upload the clean to the audio podcast. And a special hello to, by the way, to everyone who's listening on audio podcast, driving your car, etc. But welcome to another 5 Fact Friday. This is Moving Home with Charlie. I am Charlie. And oopsie, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. And this week we have, oh dear, there are people, there are airplanes. I don't know how this is going to go, but needs must. I'm between meetings. I had nowhere to do this from. So I hope you appreciate the commitment to doing it no matter what happens. So the Halifax, fact number 1, Halifax reports a month-on-month house price fall of 0.5% in March. Fact number 2, Angela Rayner doubles down on her house building target lie. Fact number 3, the papers finally catch up, and both the Express and the Telegraph have put out articles this week about how, well, one of them says it's a house price crash without anyone realizing, as a quote from an agent in the Telegraph article. Number 4, the fact on the back of the market turmoil this week in the global markets, on the back of the tariffs, I have repeatedly warned every day, it's impossible for anybody, even the Donald, to predict the market outcome of this. I don't think he cares about the market outcome. He only cares about repatriating manufacturing to America, seems to be his only care. He doesn't need to care about the markets. But the point is, I've been saying to people, don't worry about it. Don't start shifting your savings and your investments around, because you're only going to get caught up because of the total uncertainty. And then fact number 5, the RICS confirms market activity slowdown. Now, is the audio bearable? Can you guys hear me? Can I have a... Can anyone just tell me if the audio is okay? Morning, Clayton Jane. Morning, Sutsy Cars. Empty Space, RB. Cha-Cha, Sandra. So can someone just put in the comments that you can hear me okay? That'd be great. Good audio, says Patricia. Awesome. Right, let's crack on. So number 1, sorry about the camera. By the way, this is one of my favorite spots. So I'm by the Peace Pagoda in Battersea Park in London. So this is one of my favorite spots in my favorite park, in my favorite city, in what is still just my favorite country in the world. So welcome to this special spot of mine. But without further ado, trying to get the camera angle. There we are, that's better. So there's the house price index from Halifax. And what you can see here is they're saying that month on month, prices actually went down 0.5% in a month. Now, I've always pointed out these indices are all as unreliable as each other to varying degrees. Don't read too much into it. Don't forget that Northern Ireland and Scotland are going up, England and Wales are going down. So where you are won't be doing 0.5% down. That is a national average that oversimplifies it. Still interesting though, based on their mortgage lending alone. So this is the Lloyds Banking Group, and that they are still saying that they see a 2.8% year-on-year or annual rate of growth. But again, remember that is nominal. So when you take out the 3.9% CPIH inflation, it means that house prices are not keeping up with inflation, which means that on average, with varying degrees of regional differences, house prices are declining in real terms after you apply the effects of inflation. Okay, so that's a Halifax. This is a quick one for me, guys. I haven't got long to do, unfortunately. Next article. So government says we will meet target of 1.5 million homes, says Rayner after watchdog forecast. And I don't think anyone with any common sense actually believes this anymore, especially when the OBR has lowered the figure to 1.3 million, especially when 2024 had really, really low. I mean, they now have to go way above 300,000 a year to have any chance of meeting this, because they're coming up on a year in power. Like, it's been 9 months, right? and they are making progress on that. And they're saying they're pinning all of their hopes on the fact that the planning reform is going to make the difference and suddenly unleash them out. But I heard a stat this week that I didn't know, and it changes everything. It's incredible. Apparently, notwithstanding planning permission challenges, planning permission has already been granted for more than 1.4 million homes that are not currently being built. 1.4 million homes worth of planning permission has been given the green light and the go ahead, but the builders aren't building anyway. So what that tells you is planning consent isn't the thing holding up house building, right? I'm sorry, I didn't get the source of this, so I can't cite this as a fact, but that's what I've heard, right? It is actually builders not building when they could because they don't want to, because they're not selling enough at the moment. That's what's holding it back, which is why there's a danger, and I use the word danger advisedly, of government meddling and intervention and stimulus to try and help people buy more new houses, which we have to hope doesn't happen, because that's what led to housing affordability being so bad now. Although there are signs that housing affordability continues to improve, which is good. But there you are, that's fact number 2. And I think we can all now basically safely disregard anything the government says, because I don't think it's ever what they personally believe anyway, is it? It's what they're told to say. Right, next one. So this is an article in the Express. UK homeowners face hidden house price crash as real values drop. Market is at a turning point and homeowners must price their properties carefully, an expert has warned. Okay, so this is coming from Hamptons International. They're also quoting Rightmove. And by the way, interesting again that Rightmove, that's normally the biggest inflator of house price expectations, has the lowest year-on-year house price growth. Now, when you factor in the fact that Rightmove's index is based purely on brand new asking prices, and the land registry's figures the lender's figures are based on prices just being approved for transactions now or in the next month, and that there's a 3 to 4 month gap between those two things. In other words, houses coming to the market and houses actually completing. No, it's a lot more than that. What am I talking about? It's more like time on market plus time to exchange is more like 9 months. So what the change in Rightmove's year-on-year growth is telling us is that asking prices year-on-year across the country, new asking prices, are growing at the slowest rate of all the different indices. And the lenders' indices are saying, well, it's doing 2.9%. So that tells you that asking prices are easing. So it's a bit of a leading indicator of what's happening with the market. Now, that was the Express article. All of these are linked to below, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube. And also, if you're listening to this on audio podcast, the links to all these articles are in the show notes below. But the next article was the Telegraph. And it's the same article on the same day. And it says Labour, this is a great article by Josh Kirby in the Telegraph. Why Labour wants your house price to fall is the very, very catchy title of his article. Have a read of the article, but so a house price crash without people realising. And the actual quote there, by the way, our property taxes are the highest in the G7. There we are. We are being taxed like mugs in comparison to everywhere. This is real house price growth on this graph, quarterly change, and then it's going back to 2008. And basically since 2007, we've just been seeing real house prices actually falling. So that's after adjusting for inflation. So if you're thinking that houses are in good investment, they haven't been a good investment if you are wise enough to factor in inflation. And by the way, if you don't factor in inflation and just go on basically your house sticker price and then wonder why you're not as rich as you thought you were, that's because you've been ignoring inflation. But here's the quote here. It's Anisha Beveridge of Hamptons. We've essentially seen a house price crash without people realizing in real terms rather than nominal terms, explains Anisha Beveridge of Estate Agent Hamptons. Falling prices by design. So they're interesting stuff. Now, on to the next fact. No one knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's happening, right? I did this survey on the effect of the stock market, and there you can see that the most popular answer is don't know. Actually, I don't think it has any effect on the housing market itself. It may have an effect on people's deposits. It may have an effect on people when more people coming to sell. It certainly isn't going to be increasing demand. It may only increase supply. And as you've seen, all of the metrics we're seeing here are basically negative as far as both prices and activity are concerned. Oh no, we got a supply and demand simpleton watching. I've just showed you ONS graph data showing that real house prices have been falling since 2007, and estate agents saying the same thing, and Halifax saying the same thing, Jackie. And you're saying this guy has been talking about house price drops for 2-3 years. Well, it is not about supply and demand of houses. There are plenty of houses. It's about supply and demand of finance. Your argument here is the simpleton argument of, oh, there are too many people, so there aren't enough houses, so prices are going to go up. That assumes that everyone in the people you're counting have a mortgage, right? I'm sorry for the silly voice, but I'm just making the point because I do get sick of this argument from people who haven't done any basic research on how the housing market actually works. It is all about supply of finance. What would happen to house prices, do you think, Jackie, if you took away the supply of 40% help to buy loans for 10 years and took away the supply in London, the 20% help to buy loans in 10 years for the rest of the country, and took away the supply of 1% mortgages? What do you think would happen to house prices then? Do you think they wouldn't be affected because of people, supply and demand? Or do you think that'll bring prices down? So I'm picking you out, Jackie, because you're the one who's stuck your head above the parapet. But to everyone who thinks it's just supply and demand, you're broadcasting your ignorance of how the housing market finance supply works. Nothing personal, Jackie, but if you're going to publicly laugh at me, I'm going to publicly laugh at you back. All right, fair's fair, hey? Paddy O'Shaughnessy, who I think you're in Northern Ireland, aren't you, Paddy? If I remember rightly. In 2008, you had family in Florida who alerted you to house prices falling before it hit the UK, and it's happening again in Florida. Maybe a bellwether. Yep. And yes, Alex, thank you very much. I've always said keep viewing, always, and that stays the same. So the point of this that I've got on screen now is that actually I genuinely think that as far as moving home is concerned, provided it's for home moving reasons and not financial reasons, keep calm, carry on. If you're selling, you've got to be realistic about what's happening in the market here and make sure that your asking price, your launch price, is more competitive than other people whose houses are similar to yours that are selling as well. You want the buyers coming around to view yours, and the way to do that is to lower the asking price, get them competing against each other. If you're buying, as I've said many times, if you're buying long term, a family home for at least 10 years or more, even in this uncertainty, crack on. You've got a lot of choice. You've got competing sellers. So it's a good time for people looking to buy a home for home reasons, for reasons of having the security of a home that you own. For those guys, it is a good time. In fact, it's arguably the best time in 10 years to be buying a home. Does that make you happy, Jackie? As long as you don't expect to make any money out of it, right? Because as I've just shown, real house price growth is still negative when you take into inflation. But you need to live in somewhere anyway, don't you? Right? Everyone needs to live somewhere, no matter what. Do you have any questions here quickly? Oh, no, okay. So, just I've been today. I picked up a copy of The Big Issue from a vendor in Berkeley Square. He said he was having a slow day, and I was having a read of it last night, and you know my whole fix housing, fix everything. There's a graph on page 7 of this month's or this fortnight's big issue, and that's what the graph looks like, right? That is a graph of what temporary accommodation and moving home a lot does to kids' life chances. That's a graph that correlates how many times kids are moved with how many of them get 5 GCSEs or more, right? That's an almost direct correlation. Every time you move house, your life chances go down when you're a kid. And that's why temporary accommodation, and that isn't even talking about temporary accommodation, that's all kids, whether they're moving temporary accommodation or not. But if you're in temporary accommodation, of course, you end up being moved much more frequently and you can't get on with your life. And anyone living in temporary accommodation has basically got their life on hold. And the long-term social costs, not only to the individuals concerned, but to the country as well, are massive. And this is one of the things that if we fix the housing market, that gets fixed. Why? Because those kids aren't being bumped around different temporary accommodation, different hotel to different hostel to different bed and breakfast, right? They would get, under my plans, where the government builds enough social housing to meet all of its social housing obligations, those families would be going into social housing, and it would be a home, and the kids would have some stability. And the ripple effects of that on society are enormous. Never mind the short-term benefit effects of reducing the stupid cost of temporary accommodation, that we would be saving that £1.7 billion a year if we could do it. Anyway, on that happy note, yeah, oh guys, I've missed one of the facts. Hang on. Sorry, this is one of the most important ones. It's the RACS. Just 1 second, let me get it on screen. So this is the RACS monthly survey of their 200 surveyors around the country. And again, the link to it is below, to the whole document. Go and have a look yourself and look at your region. But I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that, with the exception of Scotland, that's barely positive, and Northern Ireland, that's strongly positive, every other region of England and Wales, they're expecting prices to come down in the next 3 months, right? That's the net balance of surveyors is saying prices down in the next 3 months in every region of England and Wales. And this was a survey carried out 4 weeks ago, roughly. And that graph on the left-hand side as well shows you the overall negative expectation of the prices will be falling in the next 3 months, all right? And this graph is the number of, on the right, is the number of sales they're expecting. And again, with the exception of East Anglia, where they're expecting more sales, everywhere else is expecting fewer sales. Scotland and Northern Ireland accepted, they seem to be doing very well. But I am going to read you the headline as well from, do you mind? I'm live streaming, Mr. Fire Engine. It's a lovely place to hang out here, especially on a sunny day. So the RICS says market conditions weaken amid increasingly challenging macro backdrop. All right. Buyer inquiries and agreed sales indicators move deeper into negative territory. Point number 1. So if you're a seller, this is negative news. House prices largely flat at the headline level. And of course, at the local level, there are variations. But if you take out Scotland and Northern Ireland from headline level, it's house prices expected to go down across England and Wales. Near-term expectations now consistent with a weaker outlook for activity, right? A weaker activity outlook. Again, for anyone moving, buying or selling, that weaker activity means it's harder to move. It's harder to get chains together. It's harder to keep them together, and it's harder to get the deals exchanged quickly. Right, ladies and gents, boys and girls, everyone else, I hope you enjoyed this. I've definitely enjoyed it. It makes a nice change to be doing it from outside. I hope you get a chance to get outside in the sunshine today. Have a fantastic weekend. Keep calm, carry on moving, don't overpay, don't overprice, and everything will be all right. If you want to get in touch with me, want some help, links below, how to do that, links to all these stories below, and I'll pop these links also into the post underneath this video on X. Thanks, guys. Have a fantastic one. See you soon. Thanks.